Hello creatives, how are you? I am Maiane, a Brazilian graphic designer, and today is my second video for the project I've been developing for the Adobe Creative Residency Community Fund. And during the August month, I will develop a UI accessibility kit. And during this month, I intend to share my whole process with you, so keep along because I have a lot of cool stuff and you will understand everything I do in order to create a good design project. And today, in this video, I will briefly talk about how I organize my project. I have also come up with a timeline. I don't know if you have already checked it on my Instagram, but if you didn't, I will briefly talk about it. But the most important thing we'll talk during this video is the inclusive design principles, which is the first part of my research for the project. But keep with me because I will explain all of this to you and you will understand hopefully everything. If you don't, just leave a comment and no problem at all. First of all, the organization. This is a very, very important thing in any project you make. There are a lot of designers who struggle with timeline, with deadlines and all this stuff. And I think that most of that is because a lot of them just ignore the organization party. This organization party, this was terrible. I wasn't intending to talk that, but okay. They just ignore the organization of their projects. Before you start any project, you must organize it. You must define the timelines, what you do, where you share, how you share, and everything else. Because, for example, for this project, I intend to share everything on the websites, on the Instagram, on Dribbble, on YouTube. So, if I didn't come up with a good layout, a good design, then my project would seem like a whole of different projects, then I would just make everything in a hurry. It would be terrible. That said, the first thing I have done, I have created the social media layout for Instagram, Dribbble, and YouTube. Then I have come up with its timeline. This was the timeline I have first present when I applied to receive the fund. And it's divided in 4 weeks. The first week I will do organization and research. Second week I will start some notes, some sketches and some wireframe. And I will keep up with the research because I think that 1 week is just a small amount of time. The third week, I intend to over the project, the UI kit, the UI accessibility kit. And this is very important because I intend to over the project by the third week because at the fourth week, I intend to create some mockups, some real life use cases, and also the presentation. And I need to have some time to post on my Behance. Most people just create the project and just post anything there, and this is not good because sometimes you lost a lot of time doing your projects, and if you don't spend some time in order to share that, in order to create cool mockups, real life examples, then sometimes your work is lost just because the lacking of a good presentation. So this is very important. But with no further ado, let's go to the inclusive design principles. When I first start to research, I have just seen a lot of technical websites and there are a lot of norms and governmental stuff. I probably misspelled it. Never mind. And sometimes people tend to think that accessibility is something hard because all that rules and this kind of stuff. So I really encourage you, if you are looking to accessibility, you can try to look for the 7 design principles. You can check that. I will leave a website in the description and you can check it there. But if you prefer, I will explain all of them briefly so you can understand which are these 7 principles that are so good to follow and so easy to understand in order to create a good design meant for accessibility. And here goes the first principle: provide comparable experience. It means that when you are going to share content, you must provide it in different ways for different people with different kinds of disabilities. But most important, you must maintain the essence of this content. If you are, for example, I will put a button on my website, then you must keep the alternative text. For example, for someone who is blind, he will hear that alternative text. And also, for example, if you are creating a movie or a video, you must provide transcription, audio description for your website. And also it's very important to provide customizable captions, which means that you don't have to just leave the caption there. It's important for the people who have problems, some kind, not problems, but disabilities, and they must have the control over it. So they must be able to change the font, the contrast, and all this kind of stuff. And here goes the second principle: consider situation. It means that you must consider when the people will use your interface. For example, you could be at the sun, and then the sun would reflect into your screen, and it would be so much harder to read. Then the contrast must be improved. Or for example, someone is moving in a train full of people, a crowd, and they want to watch a video. You must provide captions. Like, this is very important because the people won't be able to hear that at that time. So this is very important. You must consider when the people will use your interface. And the third principle says be consistent. It means that you must use familiar conventions. For example, one that's been very famous is that people everywhere, every place, like every social media that you see the pic of a person, you see that there is a circle around it. It means that this is a pattern. Or for example, when you see a button, there is this border around it. And this is also a pattern. And if there are patterns, they are meant to be followed, because probably, especially if big companies are using it, then probably someone have already researched a lot about it, because there is no reason for you to leave a text that is a link without any indication that that is a link. For example, if you are going to use a link into your website, it's very common to use underline because there are people who have color blindness, and if you use just color to differ a link from text, these people will have a huge problem. So there are things that, and I know that I'm a designer, and sometimes you say, that's ugly, it's much better without that underline. But most of the time we just ignore people who won't have the same experience as we are having. Our problem is that this is meant to be ugly, and their problem who want to achieve the same experience as us. So this is very important. Try to follow design patterns, learn with it, because if they are being used, there is a reason, and you must find why. Well, and the fourth principle is give control. It means that someone who have any kind of disability, or even people who doesn't have, they must be in control of your website, your application, your interface at all. The person who uses your interface, they must have the ability to have control over how they prefer to use it. And for example, the most navigator, they have the ability to control orientation, font size, zoom, contrast. So please just make sure you won't disable these things, because some people may have huge problems because of it. And the fifth principle, offer choice. It means that the person who are going to use our interface, they must have different ways to complete the same task, to achieve the same result. For example, if you are in your city and you want to go to the mall, you have a lot of different ways to come there. And people must have all these different ways to achieve a result into your website. And for example, if you have a long list, you can offer the person the option to organize it in a grid or in a list layout. Or if you wanted to present a lot of data, then you can use even tables or graphics. You must give the person the option to choose, because not just for people with disabilities, but all kind of user, they must feel they are in control. And offering choices is a good way to give control to people, and this is very important for a better user experience. And the sixth principle is prioritize content. It means that first, you must identify what is the most important thing into your interface. You must clearly know what are the most important stuff people will do there, and you must keep the focus on what is most important, because the people won't have time to read everything, and actually most people are not interested as much as you are into your product. So you must be aware that when you are creating, try to put the focus on what is the most important things. And to over the video, the seventh principle, add value. I always think that someone you use your site and you must provide value to these people. Each feature has a value, and it depends on how it will improve the experience for that user. And you can also use different kind of device and features to provide more value. For example, for a deaf people, if you provide audio notification, this won't make sense. So try to provide vibration notification. You can also try things like voice, geolocation, and all different kinds of stuffs. Well, with that, I over my video. I'm really sorry by bad English. It's terrible today. I will keep trying to improve my English as I improve my accessibility levels. So if you liked, please subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on Instagram, on Dribble, leave your comments, and let's build it together. Thank you.